Manchester United manager Erik Ten Hag is in denial as he has come out to firmly deny being responsible for the signing of some of these flops. Welcome to the United Hotspot. Like, share, and subscribe. Now, pressure after pressure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. You remember that song? Well, Erik Ten Hag is dancing to that tune. He's also reminding us. Did you hear that? Before the cock crows 3 times, you will deny me. You will deny your own. Erik Ten Hag has denied Anthony Dos Santos. He has denied Casemiro. He has denied Mason Mount and co. He says they were not signed by me. It was the club, and by the club, of course, certainly it doesn't mean you and me because we are part of the club, and he doesn't mean Sir Alex Ferguson. He's saying the club, and in this, he's probably referring to the men who were fired in Richard Arnold and John Mata. It is the club that sanctioned their signing. It wasn't me. Now, I read this and I was like, okay, when pressure mounts, I think people can, mankind, the humankind is so interesting because I mean, it's a thing in football that when managers come and players are recommended by them and they are signed, I mean, it's you who has signed them. But he's saying that he did not splash the huge amounts of sums that were signed on Anthony. The 85 million pounds signed splashed on Anthony was not him. And I'm thinking, Mason Mount 60 million pounds was not him. Yet we know for a fact that he insisted that Mason Mount be signed by Manchester United. Now, I've been looking and saying, is it the pressure getting him in this place? But this shows you the mess that was at Manchester United. That there was there was no collective ownership. I don't think ever during Sir Alex Ferguson's times, or even at a team like Arsenal, you would hear Mikel Arteta come up and say players signed in his regime. He will come out and disown them because if he says the club signed them and he's the manager, then probably he's disowning them. So he's not part of the club. So we are more with the fans that signed him, or is it Sir Alex Ferguson who signed them? It defeats logic. I mean, should we say the Glazers signed them? It defeats logic. But this is now what is coming out. It's emerging now. Of course, when such things start coming out, probably it is again to show you. I mean, to build up to something. You know, we know what we are all waiting for. We are waiting for a report or a statement from Ineos, and their decision has been made by on him. It's now a matter of them making it publicly known. And whereas some of us have sources close to the club that can probably tell us what has happened, it's difficult to come out here and firmly say this is going to happen because in any case, if it doesn't happen, that will be what should I say, assassination of our careers or what have you. I won't be like this British media who won't fear to come out and say certain things even if they don't make sense. I think at this time, a smart person, if you're a journalist, a reporter, you don't just come out and just based on what you know and confirm Erik Ten Hag being sacked because if he's not, because these Ineos guys themselves are not clear on what they want to do. We hear he was sacked already. That's what I know, by the way, from the club. That's what I know from within. That's what my sources say. If it happens, I will be saying, yes, my sources are credible, but I can't come here confidently to say Erik Ten Hag was sacked because these Ineos themselves too are as confused as everyone else, as how we played, as our entire last season. So it's difficult to say. But anyway, the thing is he's coming out to deny the players like Anthony, saying they were signed by the club. He did not sanction the fee. He also the fees. Also says there are certain other high potential players that the club negotiated for that they didn't sign. Now, it's again a whole lot of a confusion. I was talking to a gentleman today, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine today, and he was also saying, and this is an Arsenal supporter by the way, and he was saying the one thing he has always seen with Erik Ten Hag is his arrogance. And I liked that he said it because I keep saying it honestly. I like Erik Ten Hag, I mean, partly, but honestly, the guy can be a bit too full of himself and become a bit too arrogant. Are there advantages to that? Probably, because there are things maybe that can only be done by only an arrogant guy like him. His personality at times is funny. It's different. It's strange. And well, the arrogance at times is necessary. it is necessary, but it maybe gets overboard at times. It gets overboard a bit. And this again for me is part just cuts into that if he can come out and say me, disown players that were signed by him, who on earth could have recommended Andre Onana to replace David De Gea? Tell me, the best goalkeeper in the Premier League the season before. Whose recommendation? Who? How can Erik Ten Hag disown Andre Onana? How can Erik Ten Hag disown Anthony? Who in their right mind would sanction £85 million for Anthony unless the manager is desperate for this player? Who in their right mind, even John Mata, even the most clueless of the Glazers, would never have sanctioned £60 million for a Mason Mount with a year left on his contract in a season, in a window where we didn't have cash, but that was Man United's first signing. So it doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all. So yes, of course, it's not him who goes and negotiates. We know that the John Matters and Richard Arnos were flying around Europe negotiating, and I think when he spoke of high potential players who he didn't sign, he was talking of players like Dijon, Frankie Dijon, because they spent so much money flying around Europe trying to convince him to join Man United. He didn't. So if we had signed him, because I think he's talking of him as one of the other high potential players they negotiated for, but they didn't sign. I think I spoke about this story in depth before. How these two guys spent most of the times wasting Man United money in flights around Europe, but couldn't land the deal. But which manager just says that? Which who in the world recommended Sofiane Amrabat? So it's that the club only saw players from Erik Ten Hag's former clubs to come and join the team. I think it was a wrong statement for him to make. It looks ugly on him, to be honest. It shows a manager, a leader who does not own up. I think one of the basics of the characteristics of a leader that they teach you as a leader, you've been trained to be a leader. And I think it's right. The first thing you take or you do as a leader is you own up. Ownership is the first characteristic of a leader. Now, if you're a manager at that level of a club like Man United, you've got to own up. You've got to own up. It's not that you get it right all the time, because among the signings he mentioned, because just a couple of, I think towards the end of the season when the pressure was mounting on him, when he was being scrutinized day after day, he came out and said, just last season, people were praising me because I brought Casemiro, I brought Lisandro Martinez, and they were the best players from the last season. Now people are attacking me. So he owned them at some point, saying, bragging about how he's the one who brought Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro and whoever. Now, because his job is on the line, he's being quizzed about these players, he's disowning them. Mankind. Eh? No wonder even God-feared man. Men are difficult. Anyway, that's far from the point. All we need to hear now is whether he remains or he leaves. But again, that is to give you a biting expose of the kind of guy he is. And maybe this should dig into his character and why certain players are failing to play under him. So, guys, we need to be honest and look at these signs and reflect on them and make our own review of the season and the manager. Because Ineos might be doing their closed review, but we can make our own review and try to speculate what's coming if they're taking their time. Because if this is the kind of manager, a manager who can't own up to his own players, how dare he tell us that I did not sign Anthony and all these players? The club signed them. Who is the club? Isn't he part of the club? Okay, we signed them because we are part of the club. You and I signed Anthony. You and I signed, let go of De Gea and brought Andrew Nana. You and I signed Rasmus Hoyland. You and I signed Mason Mount. Is that what he's saying? Come on, Eric. You can do better than that. That's not ownership. Poor leadership. A bad workman at times blames his tools. But this is even beyond blaming his tools. He's disowns. A bad workman does not disown his team. I don't think that's how the saying goes. This is what he does. Poor leadership. Bad sign, honestly.